Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, well, that answers that question. I was about to ask if we could record, and we are. And can I also just check in with you, Rieki, about how much time you've got today? I booked you for half an hour, but if we could go a bit longer, that would be amazing. But I know you're a busy man.
I'm technically open, so it's fine. I had at least an hour.
Oh, fantastic.
So, Emily, can I hand over to you to put Rieki in the picture about what would be most, what would serve you best on this call today?
Yeah, thanks a million, Rieki. I really appreciate it. I would love, I suppose, most importantly, to really understand how you see the big picture on the planet, the big picture in a nutshell. That's like the short context, but most importantly, how seeds, the idea for seeds came to you and how it was birthed. So I'm aware, of course, Samara is a function of seeds. She will only exist as a function of seeds. So really keen to understand the context in which seeds arrived into this world. I have a few more questions, but that's the most important one. So
sure. Yeah, so I think all of these, organs are a function of what, we're calling, a lot of people are calling the regenerative renaissance. So it's this, energetic frequency, whatever you want to see it as, that's shifting humanity into a new state of being. And we're all tapping into that, our own, each individual way. We're sensing into it. We're just kind of walking. And if we trust those next steps, then it guides us to this place that's miraculous and wild and weird and funky and amazing. So just my personal journey in this 10 years ago or so, I don't know, meta story is my life has just been a periods of shift and unlearning and rebirth. So, starting off when I was 15 and doing plant medicine just because I was wild and rebellious, and I was super religious before that, and dealing with a lot of shame and guilt as a 15-year-old boy does when you're deeply religious. And then exploring mushrooms and God telling me he doesn't exist. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. But later, so I turned atheist for a while and only later realized that if God told me he didn't exist, then there's something there, right? Yeah, so that shifted into joining the military again out of kind of rebellion against culture and not really feeling like things made sense. And then getting into the military and realizing this is all a lie as well. So that started having to deconstruct, what is the nation state like? How is the empire of the world really operating? What's going on there? And that's another rabbit hole. Okay, well, now we have these control systems. How are they set up? And financial, how's the banking cartel set up? And start deconstructing all that. And go even further into like capitalism and these different things. So, I had to unpack all of that. At some point I came into like, okay, this is all really bad. How do we, do something better? I don't want to raise kids in this world. So I got into permaculture and intentional communities and growing food and kind of like, how do we live off the land and create our own little island haven that will survive because the rest of the world is going to definitely fail. So, it's kind of like a, how do we run away and create our own safety is that drive. So that was about 10 years ago. So I got out of the military, got some friends. We started a nonprofit. We called it the Sustainable Revolution. So you had the idea of our mentality at the time was a little bit like, fight the power. Moved to Central America, bought some land, started growing trees. A year later, that failed spectacularly for all the good reasons. And then that just started a journey of trying to figure out who I am, how I could fit into this, and just a wild, sensing into what I was talking with you before about just what's my role into this. So, learning about breath work and started practicing with some different medicine healers and shamans in Central America, and they were showing me some different techniques. So anyway, started getting into more of a spiritual journey. And then that's kind of what ultimately led to Seeds, is being on that journey, just taking one next step at a time, and that's gradually unfolded into where I'm at now. Sure, there's a lot of other tipping points. I guess one of the ones that are important is around food. I absolutely love food. I have a deep relationship with growing plants. I want to, connect with plants more. I love talking to them. I love having a relationship with them. I love like being able to have that circular energy exchange between the food that I'm eating and the relationship I'm having with them. I think that's incredibly important. So 6 years ago, one of my friends was doing a peer-to-peer local food system, kind of like Airbnb meets local food. Grow food, not lawns, cook food out of your house, sell it to your neighbors. People get local home-cooked meals, and it's beautiful and great, right? These ideas are fantastic, but if those exchanges are mediated by a platform that's taking fees, people aren't going to use it. It doesn't scale. They look at it and say, oh, Bob across the street is selling pies. I'm going to walk over and say, hey, Bob, here's $5 and I'll buy your pie from you. And platforms don't work. So that was actually where Seed started, was, that initial challenge was he was saying, I was into crypto. I got into it back in 2011 because this is when I was in the whole, banking system sucks, what's better? And that's how I kind of started getting into Bitcoin. But I didn't see it as a solution. It didn't feel like a solution to me, but fortunately I did get into it and it's helped me out tremendously in my life in weird ways. So anyway, I was into it at the time and he came to me, he's like, hey, do we put crypto to solve this local food problem? And originally I was like, no, but he planted that seed of an idea, and about a month and a half later or something, I was doing a breathwork session and I just remember this like breathing in and out, this expanding and contracting, and it kind of like started morphing into a financial system in my mind. There was like this dynamic supply currency so anyway, the whole thing kind of came through at that moment. I went home and wrote like a 80-page white paper over the next couple of days. That was the start of, we called it Light Food at the time. And it was a better than free peer-to-peer food system. It's like, how do we make, interacting with your neighbors better than free? So you would use the platform. And we do that by having our own financial system that's subsidizing it. So it's kind of like, what if central banks were paying, local food producers for producing food and selling it at a subsidized rate? We're doing that for industrial agriculture already. We're doing that to, deplete our fishing stocks across the world. Like, we're literally paying fisheries to exploit our oceans, even though it's not profitable anymore. It's wild. Like, we are, we're financing the destruction of rainforests, but it's not even profitable to do it. It's like, I could almost understand capitalism, like doing something that's profitable, but we're doing it even more extreme, where it's not even profitable anymore. It's only profitable because we're subsidizing. It's like, it's not even as bad as just capitalism, it's worse than it. So anyway, it's like, how do we do the exact opposite? Like a lot of people are like, money is bad. This is kind of the exact opposite. It's like, money is magic. And currently it's dark magic. Like, you don't show up to a magic fight with a pencil sharpener. You show up to a magic fight with magic, right? So it's like, let's not get rid of the magic of money. Let's just repurpose that magic for our own endeavors. So these are all kind of the thoughts that are weaving together at the beginning when Seed started. And we figured, hey, if this works for a food system, it actually works for everything. So we started off with food as the foundation, and then it kind of grew to like, hey, this actually can be a financial system that works for anything. Okay, well, now we have a financial system. How do we govern it? So that's what started the whole governance discussion. And then we're like, all right, well, we have a group of people who are building this thing. How do we organize ourselves? And that's kind of what spun off into Hypha, and how do we decentralize our organization? So that's been kind of a 6-year now, or however long it's been, unfolding journey of weirdness and wonderfulness. And anyway, that's Seeds in a seed shell.
Amazing. I love it. Wow, so many things I'd love to talk to you about in that story. 15's young for plant medicine. Fair play to you. My God, must have blown your world apart.
I mean, it was, so beautiful. I was sitting on a hill in this like orchard, and I just was transported to the Garden of Eden, like actually. I still recall this moment of like looking up and just pure bliss, seeing the detail of this apple as I'm like picking it from the tree and just complete. Anyway, it was beautiful. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Rieki, so many dimensions. I'd love, I'd have 50 questions. I suppose, unfortunately, I'm personally really interested in so many dimensions of this, but I suppose within the context of the remit for the questions, I'd love to understand more. So you received the vision for Seeds when you were in a breathwork session. So I'm curious, did you have a sense of an energetic body that is Seeds? In other words, was Seeds already formed that was seeking, was it an idea that was seeking someone to receive it, or was it something else?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of how I was starting this. I see it as there's this regenerative renaissance, this new civilization that wants to be birthed, right? And it's kind of, sending out its signals to all the different people to say like, hey, your skills right here, come do this part of it. So that's 100% I feel like Seeds is. Like, I didn't give you the backstory of like where I was before Seeds, but when we're in Central America trying to do that eco village, like what I really got into for the 4 years that followed that failing was, how do intentional communities run? How do we make decisions? How do we organize ourselves? How do we steward common assets? So I got really into organization models, financial models, economic models. So that's like, that was my world. So I didn't understand why that was my world. Like in one part of my logical mind, I think all that stuff's kind of annoying, but I'll stay up all night reading about it and just geeking out on organization models. So it's like, that's my piece. So when it called to me and be like, hey, your part is to like help birth this financial and economic side of it, it's like, cool, now it all makes sense. I understand why I went on that whole journey to play this part. So yeah, that's how
Right.
certainly not my mind. I go through and read some of the stuff that's come out. I'm like, that's brilliant. That's smart. Who came up with it? So it's I can't even remotely try to claim any of this. I'm just playing, one instrument as we all are,
Sure. 100%. Yeah, the Renaissance is calling each person. I love the way you said that. That's so true. It's completely the same frequency. But seeds in and of itself. So the Renaissance as a movement is calling each person, activating each person, and as they purify, align, and get really coherent internally, they have a greater capacity to receive the calling, to receive the clarity of insight, right? Did you feel seeds specifically had an energetic, like, do you see seeds as a being in a sense that's come to life, or as part of a limb within the larger Renaissance?
I mean, yes, insofar as I'm separate from you, as we're separate from each other. Like, yeah, we're separate beings, but if you abstract far enough, we're not, So seeds, like, it's the reason it's called seeds, is a lot of the seed of life. That's where the logo comes from, and the fractaling nature and how things fold into itself. So it's like, that's part of the energetic frequency that's unfolding out of seeds. It's kind of that, it's more of like the DNA pattern that can unfold into new types of organisms. So that's also why it's called a seed, is it's containing the protocols and DNA necessary to unfold different structures of life. So that's the pattern of seeds, is to be a seed. So
that's beautiful. So there's so much possibility coded in that just has to be unlocked, essentially. And of course, Samara is one part of that DNA unlocking. So I'm really curious how you see Samara.
Yeah, I mean, I see them all as seeds. So a seed has DNA and pattern that talks about how it can grow, but we don't know what it's actually going to look like until, environmental factors influence it. It's going to grow, and everyone's going to look unique in a different, funky way depending on how they grew. So Samara is kind of the exact same thing. Every one of these organisms that grow out of Haifa, they're going to be a reflection of the members and the purpose that are behind them, just like any organization on that front. So, I can look at some of the DNA and pattern that is Samara, but already they're constantly amazing me and blowing my mind, and we're stealing some stuff from Samara and bringing it over to Haifa. So like, I'm definitely here to learn from Samara rather than try to orchestrate it in any way. So yeah, that's kind of what I see from Samara. But I also see Samara is, just like any good child, is evolving beyond the parent. So if Haifa was the parent that Samara is the child of, I see Samara is going further into the new paradigm than Haifa is. Haifa is still more of a bridge in my world. I remember going on and every time I get way too overwhelmed, I just have to completely shut down for a week and fast from everything, from food and talking and everything. So I was on that about 2 years ago, and on it, before I left, I read Punished by Rewards. So here I am designing like economic systems that are all about incentives. So I had to like counter that. So I read Punished by Rewards, which is all like, don't use incentives for anything. Anyways, got done with that. I had the insight during that fast of like, okay, we need a universal basic income. Like, we can't have this difference between, how we're funding each other. It's like, we all rise and fall together. We need to have that harmony rather than that, incentive structures that create discord. So I came back and I brought that to Haifa, and it was strongly repelled for all the great reasons. And that's fine. And so then I've kind of like, okay, well then Haifa is more of a bridge. So Haifa has 7 different layers of inequality, or different ways that they pay for each other based on the complexity. And I think it's perfect. It's a bridge that helps people who are just really in the capitalistic, competitive world. It's a nice way to ease into it. But I see Samara going even further, where they're like, well, we only want 3. They just start off thinking 1, but 3 is a little bit more grounded. So I see just that's one element, but they're also much more interested in completely diving into ceremony and ritual and the energetics of what this is. Where some of those things I bring up to Haifa, and they're like, that's not very bridge-like. It sounds a little bit culty, and that's going to repel people. I'm like, that's fine. Totally get that. I mean, large part of Haifa is, blockchain developers and really, intellectual type of folks. So, if that language isn't what they want to hear, that's awesome. So, I can go in and in Samara, I can speak about like portals to a new paradigm. Like, yep, we get it. That makes sense. My Haifa, my portals to a new paradigm. It's like, dude, calm down. Like, we're a tech company building exponential tools. So they prefer words like exponential versus, portals. Different folks, but I think it's fantastic, and they're both, different ways of attracting certain people. The final piece to all of this is that's really the element that I see in Seeds. It's meant to be that bridge. A lot of new paradigm projects fail because they aren't playing a bridge. It's kind of like there's this, idiom that if you're like 3 steps ahead, you get murdered, but if you're 1 step ahead, they will follow you. Jesus was too many steps ahead, so they had to get rid of him, right? And I see that with a lot of new paradigm projects. It's like, hey, a resource-based economy or the Venus movement, like these are fantastic ideas, but they're too far removed from where we're at for us to be able to bridge our way there. So that was the entire concept of Seeds, is like, how do we take like the current paradigm we are at and use that as a bridge point that brings us into somewhere new? Like, how do we repurpose that drive for profit and competition and actually make it a beneficial drive? Rather than trying to fight these things, how do we redirect it? So it's kind of the same thing as like martial arts. It's like you don't fight your opponent, you redirect the energy, right? So that was kind of the energy behind Seeds, is like, how do we redirect this energy and be really welcoming to a wide diversity of energies that we can be that bridge, so we can bring in people who are just about money. Great. If we can bring in that energy and reformat it to be a net positive for humanity, then we can be successful here. So that's kind of the other energetics I see. So all the different organs, such as Samara, that I see popping out of it, they're just different playgrounds that can have their own energetic signature that, attract a different group of people. And personally, my hat is in the ring for Samara to be one that's super spiritual and grounded as a portal to a new paradigm. That's just my bias, and I plant that in there from time to time. And,
Yeah, I hear you. It sounds like a beautiful balance between yin and yang here in all of it. Really, really beautiful. So the notes of Samara, do you have a sense of those already? As a witness and somebody in it, and also a witness, what do you observe about Samara's vibrational notes?
Samara, from my perspective, originally formed because they wanted a higher octave, not higher in a better sense, but higher as in just, again, a more spiritual sense. That's why they didn't, or at least some people didn't join Haifa. They went to Haifa and they saw, hey, I think we can do this differently. So that's kind of the note I see Samara playing, is just, again, just 1 step higher in frequency that's more spiritually connected and aligned to that vision of what could be, rather than, that makes sense. But also, I feel like I lost you both.
Those who don't already know her.
So it skipped a second there. So can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. So how do you see Samara interacting with the world? So I'm curious, so here's this fantastic, amazing idea, concepts, emergent system that is Seeds. And if Samara is going out and sharing the idea and spreading the word, I'm curious how you see her interacting with those who don't already understand cryptocurrency, who don't already understand perhaps regenerative renaissance and the big picture. Like, how do you see Samara unfolding this? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I don't. I still think that's an identity that Samara and the people who are really embodying that group there would find them on their own. How I see, Samara and Haifa, all the different dudes, is they're all going to have their own flavor of how they communicate this, and a different community that's going to be attracted to that flavor. I personally see Samara as having a potential to not get too bogged down in the financial and economic components of it, or even even mention blockchain probably ever, because the people that they can bring in don't need to know that. They want to know that, hey, we're building a new paradigm here and we're living in worlds of abundance, and we're coming together with the collective consciousness and we're creating a hive mind and we're trying to channel, and that stuff is what I see Samara like wanting to focus on a little bit more, and I think that's fantastic. Why IFA can capture the folks that are more interested in like, cutting edge technologies and decentralization and cryptocurrency and what's going on there. A bunch of other different dues are forming right now that have a different focus. One's around food forests and really helping people connecting ground with their local food systems. So I think we need to have 1,000 different flavors, thousands really, that are all different cultural and community-based ways of expressing what this new paradigm is about. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how Samara is going to unfold. I just see it, them taking a more spiritual approach, which I just personally love. Pulls me over there times, and I get every one of my calls. I'm with anything Samara related. I always leave with way more energy than I came in with.
Oh, that's a great sign. That's the litmus test, isn't it? That's the litmus test, really. Right?
So
you've got an amazing group of people in there. I haven't met everybody, but anyone I've met, absolutely amazing team. I've been kind of astounded. So I've been kind of astounded with the level of just incredible openness, like as you say, like incredibly excellent professionals, but also that essential brilliance of being there. Like the light that I'm receiving from the group is extraordinary, So I'm curious, Roz, did you want to ask any questions? Because this is also you're the key lady here as the connector.
Well, so many, and you're asking such beautiful questions, Emily, that I didn't want to intrude. I suppose one that did come up for me was whether Samara, Rieki, do you see Samara as being birthed out of seeds as a whole ecosystem or out of Haifa? Because I'm just wondering if that's going to have an impact on this sort of transference of DNA.
So every one of my answers is just a map, and every map is not the landscape. They're all false. But the new map I would offer is it's not being birthed out of either of those. It's coming straight from the Renaissance itself, right? It's just another instantiation of people who are all called to that same vision. They were attracted to Haifa. They saw the tools, and now they're taking their own route with it. So yeah, it's in relationship with seeds, but I kind of signaled this before, but I think Samara can still be more bridging. So seeds is a financial and economic system. They could leverage that, but then partner with all the other, projects and platforms and groups and communities out there doing great things. So I saw, if Samara is a portal to a new paradigm, like they could help other groups, join this renaissance as well. And it's not just about seeds. Seeds is just a tool, an energetic frequency that we can use to accomplish certain ends, but it's definitely not the end all, right? Like I'm not here to serve seeds, I'm here to serve the renaissance. Seeds is a tool. Once seeds is running, my focus is actually going to shift eco villages and helping them get set up, and that's going to be a different instantiation. And then after that, it's like literal physical learning transformation centers where people go and redo rites of passage. And I think Samara also wants to do that, is like helping people reclaim what their purpose is. And I see that as part of it because, this renaissance is all about us embodying our ikigai, like finding that thing, our reason for being, like why we're here, what drives us, like what's the most beautiful gift we can give to the world. And our old cultures don't freaking teach us how to discover that or what that is. It's just like, oh yeah, you're 18, go to college, get a job, and now you're in debt. Oops. Like it's not the way. So the way is like, yes, seeds can provide us that financial abundance and security that gives us the ability to say, yes, now I can discover my new path. But we still need those processes in place, and a lot of them to help people, discover that. Not tell people what they are, but give a space and a process for that unfoldment to happen. So I don't know if that's Samara. There's an invitation there for Samara to play that role, but I say that goes well beyond what seeds and Haifa is individually offering. It's its own complete organ.
Personally, I love that answer. I've just got one other question at the moment, then I'll hand back to Emily. You said that maybe Samara will be a more spiritually focused organization compared with Haifa's more technical focus. I'm wondering what your perception is of that, bearing in mind the need to be a bridge. So to be on the edge of what's sufficiently mainstream that Samara and Samarans don't get dismissed as, you know, a bunch of flakes who are away with the fairies. I wonder if you've got any input on what that might look like so that it's still sufficiently connected and grounded to the mainstream that people can find it relatable and accessible while also holding this spiritual vibration.
I want to answer your question with a picture. Let me find it real quick. Never mind, I'm not going to find it. It's the, you know, innovation and adoption bell curve. You know, it starts off small like the pioneers. So I feel like we don't need to necessarily think too much about who we're talking to, or even our outward appearance so much. At least this is what I'm coming to right now. It's like, I'm not thinking, and I haven't for a long time, like, how do I position this? And like, how do I communicate this? And how do I, you know, look in a certain way? It's more like, how do I can get closer to my beingness that is true and that attracts everyone who needs to come at any given stage and it grows the way it needs to. So I see. Okay, so we're already there. So that's what I would say for Samara, is probably don't think about that too much. Certainly it's the purposeful play and the practicality of it. But I see Samara is already embodying that really well, where it's not just, you know, talking about things and discussing stuff and, you know, reading spiritual books and feeling good. It's actually, you know, translating that into tangible outcomes that are very practical. You know, a typical spiritual community wouldn't design an org in a box that helps communities actually set up organization structures and make decisions. So, you know, they're doing very practical, purposeful things that do help serve this transition already. So I'd say just keep doing that and you'll be perfectly fine, in my opinion. I want to turn this around a little bit. So fantastic questions. Thank you. That's really enjoyable.
I have one more, Rieki. Can I have one more that's really important? Could I ask with just one more? Do you mind? I'm so sorry. It's just really important because I'm hearing two different things there. It could be, now it could be because I don't understand this, but I just wanted to clarify. I had understood Samara to be, in a sense, the outreach organization for seeds. And yet what I'm hearing you say is that Samara is birthed out of the Renaissance itself, in which case I've also heard people speak about Samara as potentially an academy for, or some kind of learning platform or transformation platform where people could come and rediscover themselves or somehow find meaning and purpose. And I'm kind of hearing feeling a flavor of that from you here too. So I'm really loving, like, wanting to understand, is Samara the outreach part of Seeds, or is Samara something that's truly birthed directly from the Renaissance, and in which case, what's the relationship with Seeds then? And what is this academy transformation, helping people discover their purpose thing? Because these are very potent things. So just want to make sure I understand the tracks.
Yeah, again, this is my map and it could be entirely false, and it might just be a projection of what I want rather than what I'm seeing, so aware of that. So a couple of premises here. Seeds can be forked, meaning it can be replicated, meaning it can be taken and repurposed. So if Haifa doesn't steward seeds in the most beautiful way for the Renaissance, some other group can actually take it, copy all the code, repurpose it, and launch a new one. So, you know, from that sense, it really is coming from the Renaissance itself, not Seeds. And if Seeds isn't serving the Renaissance in the highest order, another group will take it and will fork it and will create something new and call it, you know, Weeds or something else and do it better. You know, so Samara has that capacity that if Haifa is not being a good steward of Seeds, they could take Seeds and repurpose it. So Samara isn't an agent of Seeds, it's an agent of the Renaissance, and Seeds is a tool that, as long as that tool is working and, you know, doing what it needs to be doing, then there's no problem with it. And definitely the outreach for the organization or the Renaissance is by being that portal. So it's like, Seeds can finance Samara to then pay people to join the Renaissance, to join this new paradigm. So I think Seeds can serve as that intermediary and helping people actually step into this. And that's why we're saying like portal to the new paradigm, right? So I think Samara can serve as that bridge, help people understand what all this new technology is, how to organize, like how to distribute value, how to set up the Renaissance in their communities, like how to tap into better than free local food systems, like how to deliver value, how to make decisions better, how to coordinate, like all these things that we need to better scale our global movements. Like there's so many people out there, there's so much capital that wants a new civilization. We're just too disjointed and we're not coordinating well. So that's what really, if I could narrow it down, like Seeds and Haifa and Samara, all there are is coordination tools. They're tools to scale coordination. So that's kind of what I think Samara could be. It's a portal that help people step into this, learn how to join it, learn how to scale coordination, and then empowering them with tools to, join the Renaissance. Not join Seeds, but maybe Seeds is a byproduct of that. Like sure, but it's Seeds is not the point. The point is the Renaissance, and Seeds is a tool to serve that as well.
That's what I needed. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I needed. So then Samara has the capacity potentially, as well as offering Seeds as the tool, financial tool, and then these tools for scaling and organizing and creating structures that reflect the Renaissance. There could be a capacity there to help people dive deeper. Like there could be potentially an academy there to help people who are wanting to join the Renaissance come into alignment within themselves more powerfully, so that their ideas are received more coherently, and therefore the tools are then put to use in the service of ideas that have been received, downloaded, integrated in an effective fashion. So essentially Seeds, Samara and Haifa are the practical vehicles through which the spiritual information or inspiration can become grounded in practical reality. Would that be?
Absolutely, and how we can evolve these tools. So
yes.
We need a space of like being really considerate and conscious and aware of like what energetic frequencies we're tapping into, and then pulling from those frequencies how we evolve these things. So having that space to like be really intelligent and mindful and conscious of how we're evolving Seeds, Seeds is it's just going to get out there where every bit of it is up for discussion and debate and evolution, like how we distribute value, like what new tools to create distribution of value, how do we make decisions, like all of that. Like sure, we have a version 1.0 that's the minimal viable civilization, but how that evolves is up to the citizens, and it's going to evolve based on the consciousness of the citizens, right? So we need to be very intelligent that we're, consciously uploading our consciousness. And I think Samara could be that vehicle that's really focused on that. So we had talked about having like an alchemist academy, which, again, if I bring that up to Haifa, they'd be like, yo, that's way too much. Like, and we have an architect academy in, Haifa, which is basically the same thing with different words, right? But not, so Architect Academy is focused on like, what are the protocols? Like how to make decisions? Like, is this viable in a blockchain environment? Can we write smart contracts for this? Like, is this a good way to scale coordination? Like we're very practical and grounded in that exploration, where I think, the Alchemist Academy is more like, how do we up-level our consciousness? Like, how do we tap more into what wants to be and how it can become? Like, how do we get on a call like this and really focus in on the speaker and send them energy so that more truth can flow through them? Like, it's more of that kind of exploration.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And I think those marry really beautifully together. I think we need both.
Yes.
If we're going to have that.
Yes, 100%. It's the yin and the yang. It's the integration of everything. 100%. Brilliant. That's total clarity now. Thank you so much. That was crucial. Thank you very much.
Yeah, feels just like a lot of words. If you're getting something out of that, fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's clarity. It's brilliant. The Alchemist Academy sounds amazing. I want to attend.
But I also want to throw the academy word away, because that creates images of a teacher and a lecturer and a student and a learner. So we have to come up with a new word. We don't know what that is yet, but it's definitely a space where maybe there's people facilitating or maybe not. But what I've loved about Samara is everyone shows up to a call and we're all facilitators. Every call that I have with Samara is, we pick a different facilitator to lead it, because we're all facilitators. And that's what I see Samara as, like training. We're training facilitators because we all are that. We all have a direct connection to source, where there's still some element where, in Haifa, we have one facilitator that's kind of holding that position. it doesn't rotate as freely. The offer is there to rotate, but it just doesn't feel like it wants to. Like Samara is very active in wanting to rotate that energy.
We're back.
All right. So I do want to turn this around now, because I could just base it off your questions. I could assume a lot of things about you, but I don't want to assume. I'd like to know. So, what's attracted you to this? I'm in love with the picture in the background, so that says a lot.
Oh, you know who that is?
Joachim had mentioned having a call with you, and then he shared that he saw that painting in an art gallery and just how the synchronicities of it. So he had a really powerful connection with it. But I mean, looking at it, it's very attracting.
Thank you.
What's attracted you here? What brings your energy to Samara, and what's your impression and interpretation of this?
Well, of course, Roz was my first connection. So that was kind of a done deal after that. She's, soul sister. So I suppose, let me create context for this. First of all, I make decisions first on resonance and then on logic. So I trust convergence, I trust synchronicity, and it's how I function. So what's attracted me to Samara, well, again, like yourself, without giving you the whole story, I come from a long journey, to find, and similar pathways, by the way, just in terms of exploration, breathwork, plant medicine, that sort of experience has been part of my journey, and a death experience, which was very profoundly informative, or transformative. So, I function, I see my journey as to follow. Right now, my job is to follow the current of connection. And so when I connected with Roz, and then when I met the team in March, I just knew, like, I for a long time, I've been like, I know we need a new economic model, we need a new economic system. That's not my expertise. My expertise is to help with the consciousness piece. So for me, when I met the team and I felt the hearts of the team, not just the professional excellence, but the actual vibrational coherence of the individuals, and then as the collective. And then most importantly for me, the criteria for me in working with people is the purity of intention. It gives me goosebumps, actually. So the purity of intention, and the willingness to continuously ask, are we on the right path here? And of course, then any organization that has purity of intention, that's seeking to serve the Renaissance or the new paradigm, although I love that word Renaissance, it says there's a lot in that. But what I would typically say is the new paradigm. Any company that is seeking to do that and has that purity of intention and has a team that is truly committed, but also super diverse. That's the other piece that I really loved, the geographical diversity, the background diversity, like all of those multiple dimensions that are being brought to table here. And when any organization is willing to truly work with the field, to really work with the spirit of things, to work with, to recognize that everything is energy, and to begin to work with the energetics, and to have the openness. So they have professional excellence, but actually have consciousness openness, mental, mind, body, spirit, emotion openness is just, it's very potent. When there's groundedness behind it. So for me, it would be difficult to work with an organization that was not grounded. So I seek to understand, which is why I was asking those questions. I seek to understand the context for the groundedness. But the piece that really gets my heart and soul is the consciousness piece. And so I've just been, I've been really impressed with everybody that I've met, and I'm looking forward to connect them. I think we're going to connect with more of the team next week. So I'm really interested to connect with them. And thank you for the time today as well, Rieki, because I know you're busy, but it was really important to have a sense of the origin story and how this has emerged, because it also informs my understanding of the alignment piece for me from where I'm coming from as well. So hearing that you received this in a breathwork session really is I got, okay, this is really, we're coming from the same place. Yeah. So that's what resonates for me. It's all about this new paradigm and creating systems, but from a new place of consciousness. So we got to bring both together. That's what I'm about. Yeah. So it seems to be in alignment. It's good to meet soul family. I think it was Justin who said after the first call, soul family, like, and it really feels like that. So that's to me, that's why I say resonance before logic. If there's resonance, we can figure out the logic, as long as there's groundedness here, which is obviously here in all directions. So yeah, so that's really where I'm coming from on it. But please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm really open to share anything if you need to know anything else.
Well, I mean, at this point, I don't need to know anything else to feel that we are in complete coherence, and that I'm really excited to just continue creating with you. More and more, I feel like I need to find more time to play with Samara. So you're going to be a stronger attractor to that. Trying to think if my heart has a question, but it just feels completely satisfied and full of love. So, I mean, I'm just here to play and build, and it's really exciting. Yeah, and I would just love to see. My mind has one for you though. That if, let's not call it Samara. We don't want to project too much, but like if you could create something, similar to Samara, maybe it is. And it's playing a role in the Renaissance. Like, what is the highest and most joyous and most exciting, role that you think it could play?
For my work, my personal work?
Yeah, that you would want to be a part of. Like, and maybe I can say this a different way. Like, what organization would be the most highest powerful organization that you would want to be a part of? Like, what's the most ideal, what's the most ideal purpose that the organization is serving, and how is it serving it?
Yeah, so I'm super clear about this. It's emergent, so it doesn't already exist as far as I know. But the vision for, so how I see the Renaissance happening is that there's essentially a rising in consciousness like a water table, and we can't avoid it, and hence we're seeing all the old systems fall, obviously. So there's an emergent society that is fundamentally, right now we're working on quite etherical levels. We need the capacity to receive the etheric so that we can translate into systemic change. There's so much physical evidence, tangibility to the old paradigm, because there's so much momentum from the old consciousness. So what I see with the new consciousness for me, my ultimate joy is what I see is that there are innovators, pioneers, early adopters, change makers in every sector of society, right? So it's not just business, it's every sector of society. And so my highest joy is to really help, like a tuning fork, to assist in supporting those leaders, pioneers, and change makers who are really on the leading edge and wanting to bring the new paradigm, the Renaissance, to life, to help them become highly coherent, so that the being has the energetics and the capacity fully activated, so that systemic change can be received and earthed in a way that is most grounded and most potent. And the way that my personal highest joy is working directly with the field, right? But it's also adventures. So conscious adventures, working in an earth context. So I'm working to develop some collaborate to create conscious adventures, where leaders can be out in the world and engage in an earth context and really feel the life force and connect, so that the reception becomes even more clear and non-linear. Right, we're all kind of masters of the linear, really, because we're Western trained, right? So it's about bringing in the non-linear and working directly with the field and with the stream of consciousness to open hearts, to connect beings, and to bring that light down, to really bring that light down and use the mental intelligence function optimally, so that it can become systemically grounded. this is my highest joy, and to do that with in collaboration with people who are switched on, who already know that the field is holding the information, the higher information. If we can upgrade our consciousness, we can upgrade the information that we're in reception of. So for me, it's collaborating with people who are already on that frequency, who are already committed, who want to bring this Renaissance to life. That's my highest joy. So I don't know what, I'm happy to go anywhere with that, but that's my heart and joy. Yeah, that's my soul. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm designed for. It's what I'm here for. It's what I came for. So it's in my entire being. So I'm profoundly grateful. That's why I'm excited about Samara, because for me, I feel all of that in that. And I feel all of that in this organization. So it's very, very exciting for me, because it's like, no, this is real. This is actually real, and it's pure. There's purity of intention there. Yeah, so that's what's in my heart. Yeah.
So one, incredibly beautiful, fully aligned. Yes, yes, yes. And I just want to add a piece, is that when you're saying all that, it came into my mind. Just I was sedating forks right next to my bed, and I kind of saw that as an image potentially for either Samara or something else. Again, I don't want to project on them what it could be, but I see that as being a tuning fork. So when Roz, you asked the question earlier about like, how do you present yourself? It's like, be the tuning fork. And then when you're holding space, you're holding it in such high and beautiful frequency that everyone comes to, it's attracting that energy first. And then it comes in and it just coheres. So really just this like coherence mechanism, you know, again, that portal as you go through and cohere, and then you step into it, like that's 100% what I think, you know, the role Samara plays in this Renaissance. And that's also answers your question with like, is, you know, Samara serving seeds? It's like, kind of, but actually, you know, seeds could be serving Samara in that sense. Well, or rather that Samara could be the one of the coherence mechanisms for seeds to ensure that seeds is serving the Renaissance. Because, you know, like any exponential technology, it could be used for the most beautiful things in the world, or it could be used for most destructive. You know, seeds in itself is a tool that scales coordination. We could scale coordination to do some really terrible things. So seeds itself as a mechanism isn't actually, you know, regenerative by default. It's regenerative by design, but that design could be shifted to be, you know, exponentially degenerative and concentrate wealth more effectively, like it could be. And that's why it's really important that the energetics behind how it's growing is grounded.
Yes.
It's also been so, you know, connected with how hype has gone about bringing people in, and why we've been really slow and meticulous about how we do it. We just haven't gone out and like, you know, talk to the degenerators of the world and had people ape in as a terminology in crypto, just like jumping into projects. But anyway, is because we're really, really mindful, because they're, and by there I mean the citizens of Seeds are the ones that are governing it and driving it and making it what it is. So we need more tuning forks, we need more coherence mechanisms to help us come into alignment so that we're, you know, growing this in the most beautiful way. And that's also why I mentioned that Seeds is workable. It could be taken. Like if Seeds falls out of alignment, Samara could be that group to be like, all right, we're going to take all of that and we're going to make a new Seeds. And again, we're going to call it whatever. And we're going to have a new thing that is more in alignment. Like Seeds, you know, Samara could be that backup agent as well. And help the resilient ecosystems to have this diversity. Like my horse in this game is the Renaissance. Like, you know, I have no sense of competition where it's like Seeds has got to be the one. Like, if somebody or something does it better than Seeds, that actually helps me so much more, because I would prefer to be in a van down by the river, which is what I was doing before Seeds. But the river kept telling me I had to go and do Seeds, and it was so frustrating because my life was just so blissful and easy, and nature wouldn't leave me alone. So I kind of want to get a little bit back to that. And anyway, so that's why, yeah, I'll stop talking. Point is, it's so incredibly beautiful. Yes. And I want to hear a little bit from Roz, because I know she's tapping into some wisdom here, and I'd love to hear it. She's holding on to a thread. Or maybe nothing at all. I just invite space for you.
I don't feel like I need or want to add anything to this particular conversation, but I would like to ask Emily a question. And I sort of know the answer already. And Emily, if you don't feel comfortable sharing, then that's fine too. But I just wondered if you might feel like sharing with Rieki a little bit about the stream team and how you work with that.
Sure. Yeah, I feel that it would be not fair not to, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, also you probably already picked it up and know already, just because I can't really not be in that space. So I work with the stream of consciousness. So mostly today I've been talking through personality, but there have been moments where I've gone a little more expanded, and you can probably sense it, Rieki, I would imagine, when that happens. So I work with the stream of consciousness, who are affectionately known as the stream team. So I work with them if there's asking in the room. So if you think of it like, and I know you'll know all that stuff already, but essentially just to articulate it. So as a being, I'm coming here with certain frequency or range of frequency, and specifically for this to assist in the birthing of the Renaissance specifically. So if there are souls who come in, or beings who come in, people who come in who are within that range of frequency, and they have an asking, there's an asking. In other words, consciousness is calling consciousness, consciousness is calling answers from the field. There's a stream of consciousness that works through me, and it's definitely not from personality, because I couldn't come up with some of the stuff. so it's really where, as you know yourself, you just get out of the way, and your personality, you just leave your personality aside, and then you open up to the guidance that's coming through. So I think one of the reasons why I felt so aligned with the very first team meeting is because I could feel that when that happened, that almost like permission for that to come through, firstly, because there is openness and asking, and secondly, there was such resonance with the people, with the information that was coming through and landing and giving people goosebumps. And so for that reason, I could feel the source codes were the same, the source codes were the same. So I suppose, just to be transparent, that it's not Emily Lane who's coming to the table. It's beyond that, which is definitely where the most value is. It's not from personality. So it's just to share that, I suppose, and be open about it.
Thank you so much, Emily, for sharing that. And yeah, because we've had quite a number, I could tell when it was and when it wasn't Emily speaking. Yeah, there's a slightly different tone. Yeah, it's amazing. Rieki, did you have anything you wanted to ask about that?
More of an invitation.
Or ask of that.
There's a weaving in. I've been calling in this vision of reimagining the ancient mystery schools. Part of that is just a drive and an intrigue. The other one is just like, yes, maybe we can have some ropes. Just kidding, but not. Anyway, there's some other really epic humans that keep coming into my world that just say they want to keep setting this up. And that was one of the drives behind this, Alchemist Academy, so to speak. So if there's already a space that's doing this and conducting this, like, I would much rather just weave into that and resource it more and scale it. Because I guess that's my particular, piece of this game, is how do we scale, the beautiful things that are happening out there. So it's ultimately, again, what Seeds and Hype and all this is about, is making it replicable and scaling it. It's, my personal mantra is decentralizing abundance, So it's like, how do we decentralize all of these, systems that we're being able to thoroughly enjoy? So it's more of an invitation slash, not an invitation, the other way around. I'm looking for an invitation for me and some of the people that are connected with me to be able to just join in on that. I would love to experience and connect with that. And if the energy says yes, it makes no sense for me to try to set up something new. It makes more sense to just kind of weave and cohere that and keep doing the good things that are being done. So yeah, I would love to tap in with that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, we can totally connect on that and talk more about that whenever, very open. I'm very open. Again, I'm following the stream. We all seem to have water analogies, by the way. All of us, we're following the stream. Roz is out in her boat, voyaging away downstream with the current. Yeah, I look, Rieki, I'm wide open. So, you know, just I'm trusting the flow. I'm wide open for all sorts of collaborators and helping. It is literally, we are here to birth a new civilization. So all of the components that are required for that are here, they're already here, and whatever we can do to help bring in that evolutionary leap from the field, because I truly believe the non-physical is where the evolutionary leap lies, and our role is as conduits to receive that information and then translate that into practical systemic change, systemic infrastructure. So I believe the evolutionary leap lives in the field, and it's up to us to translate that. So by all of us coming together, and as you so beautifully said, that bringing that coherence, you know, our combined coordinates will tap into different flavors, different notes within the collective download, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Another image just kind of came through. So this is fantastic. And I believe, or at least I'm assuming, there's an intention here to help tap into Samara's purpose a little bit. So there's one element of around a tuning fork. There's another element around fertile soil. So you just use the analogy of water, and that water is that stream of consciousness. You know, seeds is something that can go into them and help things grow. It's the DNA, but then we need that foundation, that environment, which is that fertile soil. So I see Samara as also being like, what role is it playing in this analogy? It's playing the fertile soil, where different seeds and life can plug into and team and cohere. And then when you throw water into the mix, it just blooms with life. You know, so I see all of those different elements as like seed is, yeah, so Samara is playing that environment to capture all of this energy and create ecosystems of abundance. Yeah.
This is so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool. Like, it's so beyond, you know, just putting together marketing materials for seeds. It's like, this is a whole other thing going on here. Like, this is such a different thing. It's great. It's great. It's great. I love it.
It is kind of like marketing, but we're marketing in a different dimension, because we're actually calling in the spiritual energies of the world to be on our side. And we've got to pitch them a good story for them to get behind us. So we're just marketing to a different entity right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
cheaper. You don't have to spend any money on Facebook to do that.
This is awesome. Really, really awesome. This is big. It's really big. I knew as soon as I saw, Roz, when you said to me first, when you said the word seeds and it was on the page, I was looking at it going, that is vibrating so strongly. It was so strong. And now what you've just said in the last few minutes, Rieki, this tuning fork, fertile soil, really a tuning fork for the Renaissance, with an offering fertile soil for the evolution of new ideas that are organized in a way that's sourced from higher consciousness and is going to help be of the people, by the people, for the people, and create a regenerative society.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like fertile soil in a box, you know, instead of organic box. It's like, okay, well, I create a garden in my yard. The first thing I typically do is I go and get some like nice worm castings and some really beautiful compost to go and put on top of it to provide a nice environment. You know, that could be Samara's role, as it comes into communities that are requesting it and provides that fertile soil that actually regenerates all the soil underneath it. Because when you put that beautiful soil on top of your, you know, really degenerative land that's been mismanaged for so long, it actually starts regenerating the soil underneath it and creating that life. So that's Samara in that tuning fork example. We could just use compost here. You know, it's more of like a really healthy mix of compost that can come to different communities that are requesting it and support. Maybe.
Wow. So
and to really mix our metaphors, it's just bringing to mind an aura reading that a friend of mine did for me. Well, actually, she did quite a series of them. But a few years ago, she was describing an image that signified my personal purpose. And she saw this image of me on a riverbank making these little rafts, like one-person rafts, almost like a production line. I got it down to a fine art. It would be like, there you go, there's your raft, off you go down the river. There you go, there's your raft, off you go down the river. And I suppose that's something that I've carried with me, and it sort of connects with that statement of the Hopi elders about there's a river flowing now very fast, like this river of change, and the shift happening of when people are seeking to like get into the stream of the river, to get into the flow, how do we give them those replicable little rafts that you go, there you go, now you know you're free to flow down the river. I've thank you for letting me share that. Like I said, I was very happy to keep a low profile on this call, but I just really feel that there's something there, you know, whether we're creating the bridge or building rafts for people to be able to navigate their own way down the river, or a tuning fork or the fertile soil. You know, there's so much richness here, but they're all different facets of the exact same central organizing aspiration, dream, vision.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Or
I'm afraid I'm going to have to
stuck in a medicine bag, you know.
Oh yeah,
we have a little canoe, a little tuning fork, a little bag of compost.
Yeah,
perfect, love it.
Emily, I think you
I'm
that you
going to
have
have to go. Yeah, unfortunately I do. I'm wondering where will I leave it? Will I leave you guys to have a chat, and maybe we can just see where we take it from here? I'm wide open to any requests or connection or whatever is resonant.
Yeah, we can